Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to do another romance book recommendations video. This topic is going to be forbidden romances. So basically, these books are these couples are forbidden for several different reasons. Some of them for like pretty innocent reasons, and other ones for more darker reasons. I have 4 contemporary romances to share with you, 4 dark romances, 1 novella, and 1 young adult book. So let's get started with the contemporaries. The first one is Flawless by Elsie Silver. So this is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series by her. And I know a lot of people keep recommending Heartless, for example, but this one is a very, very good book in my opinion. The reason this is a forbidden romance is because it's like a work romance type of situation. Basically, you follow this bull rider named Red Eaton, and he has been getting into trouble because he recently made a dumb comment about one of his sponsors. So his agent sends his daughter out to kind of babysit him and to make sure that he doesn't say any other things that could get him into trouble. And basically they fall in love. So Summer and Red. And like the forbidden aspect is that this is a professional relationship. She's there to kind of babysit him, to be there in a professional capacity. Obviously, if they're going to fall in love, her work might get compromised in a way. And obviously, she has to kind of be strict with him. And obviously, if you're in love, that could definitely jeopardize that. This is one of the lighter forbidden romances. Although I do have to say, I think her dad did tell him to stay away from Summer, so he's been kind of keeping his distance. She, however, has had a crush on him. Like, this was her childhood crush, basically. He was already famous back then. I really loved it. I love the Chestnut Spring series. I love the Eaton family, and this really sets up this entire family. If you've not read this one, or if you skipped this one to read Heartless, definitely I would highly recommend going back and reading this one as well. An older novel is On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. This, I believe, was published in 2011, and I actually read it this year. You follow a 30-year-old teacher named Anna, and to earn more money in the summer, she actually tutors kids. And this year she's been hired by TJ's family because TJ had cancer and therefore he's behind on school, and his family's pretty rich, so they decide to go travel to the Maldives, take TJ with and take his tutor with so that he can recover on vacation but also get caught up on schoolwork during vacation. So his family go on ahead, and then Anna and TJ travel a couple days later for different reasons, and they travel together. But when they travel, their plane actually crashes, and now this 17-year-old and this 30-year-old woman are stranded together and forced to rely on each other for years for survival. And during that time, they fall in love. I do have to say, before you run away, the first thing anything happens between them is when TJ is over the age of 18, but obviously this is a very big age gap. She's also, like, even though there's no tutoring going on the island, she was supposed to be his tutor, and she is like a teacher. So obviously when they're on the island and it's just the two of them, in the beginning it does feel forbidden because obviously they're well aware of the age gap, but the forbidden aspect really comes in when they come back, like when they get rescued from the island, because everybody just judges them, especially her. They judge her pretty harshly. And obviously, especially around the time this was written, like older woman, younger man, pretty not something that happened a lot. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. If you've not read this book yet, I would highly recommend it. Like I said, I read it this year, and I do feel like it does stand the test of time. So if you've not read it yet and you're like, maybe it's too late because this book has been out for a while, I would still highly recommend it. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So this was actually recently adapted into a movie, which I actually did a video reacting to this book and to the movie. So definitely check that out if you're interested. I really love the movie, and I really love the book as well. This basically follows an alternate universe where the son of the US president and the son of the Prince of England, they fall in love. And the forbidden aspect is especially Henry. This is a male-male romance, and Henry the Prince, he's not supposed to be gay. And plus, they're both in the limelight. Also, his mom, who's the president, she's up for re-election, and that could also throw a wrench in the mix. Like this scandal coming out. And like I said, the Prince of England, he's supposed to be, he's not supposed to be gay. Basically, the story, I didn't even tell you the synopsis. I think a lot of you already know what this is about, but these two pretty much hate each other, but on the wedding, like on the royal wedding, they get into a fight, and then there's this public scandal. So to do damage control, Alex, who's the son of the president, he has to go to the UK and do damage control with Henry, and because of that, they start becoming friends, and then they start becoming more. It's very cute. And like the whole forbidden aspect really does play a major part in this book, because they have to constantly hide their relationship from the world. Only a handful of people know about their relationship. So it is a very prominent story in this book. So if you've not read this book yet, I would highly recommend it. If you don't want to read it, then definitely watch the movie, because the movie was so good. I think especially Nicholas Galitzine, the way he acts, it was just like so, I just love it. I love his acting, and I really loved it in this movie as well. And the last contemporary, borders on dark a little bit, is A Lesson in Blackmail by Katie Robichaud. So I believe this is also a novella, but anyway, this is a story of this woman who is a library attendant and this guy who is a student. So this also is an age gap, older woman, younger man. And she's not really his teacher. The power imbalance is actually the other way around, because his parents are like owners of the school. So he's a very prominent figure in the town and in the school. And basically, if he wants to get her fired, he can. So, but he's intrigued by her. So one day he follows her to this like BDSM type club, and he realizes that she's a submissive, and he wants to explore like the dominant side of him. So they basically make a pact that he's not gonna, so he basically blackmails her. He's not gonna tell her secret, but in turn, she's gonna have to teach him about like the whole BDSM life. And it's their love story. It is kind of ridiculous and not really believable, but so you do have to suspend your disbelief. But once you do that, it is a pretty fun book and a very good intro to BDSM. I do like when, like in BDSM dynamics, it's the sub that teaches the dom how to be a good dom. I really like that. So it's a pretty quick, smutty good time. Now for the dark romances, I actually have two Sophie Larks to recommend. The first one is Snow by Sophie Lark. This is the second book in the Underworld series by her. You can read it without having read the first book, but I really did love the first book. So I'd also recommend that one. Snow, you follow this, this takes place in Russia, and you follow this girl who recently graduated and is now a doctor. But her father is in debt to the Russian Bratva. And to pretty much save him, save her family, she sells her life over to the Bratva boss in exchange for them not going after her dad. So basically she sells 20 years of her life in service to him. So she'll basically become his personal doctor, and she's gonna be there for everything he wants related to that. And in that capacity, she goes to this underworld fighting ring where she meets Snow, who's a underworld fighter. And since she's a doctor, she has to patch him up, and it's their relationship. And it's pretty forbidden because they're not supposed to date. Like, she's only there to work for the Bratva guy. And while they're falling in love, he kind of wants to save her. It's a secret relationship that they have to hide being in love. And it's a really good book. I did really love it. Sophie Lark just knows how to write love stories, and this was a very good one. Next is Stolen Heir, also by Sophie Lark. And the reason this is forbidden is because in the first book in the series, Brutal Prince, events happened that made the hero of the second book, Stolen Heir, want to get revenge on the Griffins and the Gallows. So he basically kidnaps, well, not basically, he does kidnap Nessa, who is the youngest Griffin child. He kidnaps her and takes her to his secluded Gothic mansion. This is definitely a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And he just wants to use her to make both the Griffins and the Gallows crazy because they cannot find her. And while she's there being his captive, they fall in love. And obviously the forbidden aspect is that this man wants to get revenge on her family and actually has kidnapped her. And, you know, how's that gonna work out when she comes back and says, you know, I'm back, but I fell in love with my captor and this is him. Like, you're a rival mafia person. So yeah, it was really good. I did really love it. Like I said, Sophie Lark just knows how to write a good story. I loved watching them fall in love. She's a ballerina. He has a very dark past and very bad things happened to him in the past. And, you know, in the first book, like his father figure was killed by her parents. So even though he's falling in love with her, there's still this problem that he's kind of still wants to get his revenge. So yeah, if you've not read Sophie Lark, I would highly recommend it. And you can actually start, like, these two series, they do interconnect in the third series, but you can read any of them in any order. And I would actually, you can read either the Underworld series or the Brutal Birthright series, but the Brutal Birthright is a more popular series. I guess if you've never read a dark or like a mafia romance, I would start with the Brutal Birthright series for sure. Next is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This story, you follow Cora and Dean, and Dean is Cora's sister's fiance, and during that sister's birthday party, Cora decides to stay behind, and Cora and Dean despise each other. They constantly play pranks on each other. They don't like each other at all. So Cora decides to stay behind to flirt it up at the bar, and once she's ready to go home, she realizes that her wallet has been stolen, so she is forced to call Dean to pick her up. So when he does, they actually both get kidnapped by the serial killer, and while they are held captive, the serial killer forces Dean to rape Cora, and the serial killer also rapes Cora. And during that time, feelings develop between them. And once they get rescued, those feelings never leave, and they are the only ones who know what the other has been through. Obviously, it's a forbidden relationship because he's engaged to her sister, and yeah, it's messy. Lots of angst, lots of drama, but it's a beautiful love story. If you've not read this book yet, I would highly recommend it. It's a standalone, but it's pretty heartbreaking and very dark, like I said, because the first part of this book, like the first almost 100 pages, is them being trapped with this serial killer. So it's very harrowing. So yeah, definitely check your triggers before reading this one. The last dark romance is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. So this is also a historical romance. This follows a pirate captain named Bennett, and for the last 2 years, she's been running away from her husband because he did something horrible, and she basically hates him. And while doing that, she gets captured by Ashley Cutler, who's a Lord Ashley Cutler, I should say, who's a pirate hunter, and he's of nobility. And since she's like the only female pirate that he has captured, he cannot put her in with the other pirates because she will 100% get raped. So he decides to put her up in his like cabin, where they eventually start having sex and fall in love with each other. But she's, like I said, she's a criminal, a pirate, and he's like this lord in the UK. And that is where the forbidden relationship comes in. Plus, there's another dynamic because her husband is still lurking around. And that's obviously also, there's also obviously another forbidden aspect to it because she's technically a married woman. And in this book, you see Ashley really grapple with the fact that he has feelings for her, but being with her means he has to give up his whole life in the UK. So this was a very, very good book. I really loved it. It's one of my favorite books I read last year, and I really want to reread it soon. But this is very good. Like I said, it is very dark because there are some harrowing scenes in here, and the relationship between Ashley and Bennett is very volatile and also kind of dark in some aspects because he does take out like his anger and his frustrations out on her a lot, which is also what makes it dark. But I really love this cover and I love everything that's inside this book. And I think Pam Godwin really knows how to write this like historical romance setting. So I really hope that she's going to write more in this series, she's going to write more books like this. Now for my novella, my only novella, although I do have to say Lesson in Blackmail I believe is also a novella, and it's Seducing My Guardian by Katie Robert. So most of the books in this Touch of Taboo series by her are pretty forbidden. But this book is basically what it says, Seducing My Guardian. The heroine of this book, her parents die and she gets left with this guardian. And she's been having a crush on him. And for the last 6 years, every time on her birthday, she tries to seduce him and he shuts her down. And now on her 25th birthday, once she finally gets control of her trust and loses the guardian, she decides to seduce him one last time, and this time she succeeds. And this is basically just a smutty good time. It's basically them recreating those 6 birthdays and what they should have done as opposed to what actually happened. It is taboo. It is in this Touch of Taboo series for a reason, but it's just very good. Katie Robert knows how to write smut very well, and I did really enjoy this book. It's very funny because I think this came out around my birthday because I got this book when I was a patron of hers, and I got her indie published books sent to me, and she actually wrote happy birthday, which means it must have come out around my birthday. I'd highly recommend this. I would recommend the entire series, actually. You fly through them. And my last recommendation is a young adult book, and it's actually the Bloodline series by Rochelle Mead. So I know The Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead is a pretty popular young adult series. I know a lot of people have already read that one. I don't know if a whole lot of people continued on with the spin-off, but the spin-off, you follow Adrian Ivashkov, who's one of my favorite characters of all time. I absolutely love him. And you follow Sydney. And the forbidden aspect here is that she's an alchemist, and alchemists know about, okay, so basically, let me actually backtrack a little bit. Vampire Academy, like the Vampire Academy world deals with vampires, and there's 2 different vampires in this world, the Moroi and the Strigoi, and then there's the Dampiers, who, okay, so the Strigoi are your typical vampires that we know. They die once they get direct sunlight, they drink blood to survive, and they're basically just, they're evil. Strigoi, they are made either by getting bitten by another Strigoi or when a Moroi drinks a person to death. The Moroi are actually born and they do need blood to survive. I don't know if they can eat other things as well. I don't remember. They can go out in sunlight, but they just get tired a lot. It's very uncomfortable for them. And apparently the Moroi blood is very delicious for Strigoi, which makes them need Dampiers, most of them get trained to be guardians for the Moroi. Because the Moroi constantly get hunted by the Strigoi, and Dampiers are a mix between humans and Moroi. That is how it started, but now, like, vampires and humans getting together is a pretty big taboo. So Dampiers, every time a Dampier and a Moroi get a baby, it is a Dampier. The only way a Moroi is born is between 2 Moroi parents. I don't know if that made any sense. And I don't know if that's even necessary for this book. But like I said, Moroi and humans getting together is pretty forbidden. In this world, there are also alchemists. And they know about the vampire world. And they kind of hate vampires. But they feel like it's necessary to clean up after them. So every time like there's a Strigoi body, they clean that mess up to prevent other humans from realizing or from discovering the vampire world. In this book, you follow 2 characters we met in the Vampire Academy. Adrian, who was in love with Rose, who's the main character in the Vampire Academy. And you follow Sydney, who we also met in the Vampire Academy. She's become a friend of Rose's. And in this book, this series, she's actually sent to live with some Moroi to protect the secret. And during the series, her and Adrian get very close, and they eventually start falling in love. And it's very forbidden because it's everything she's against and everything the Moroi are against, because usually vampires and humans cannot get together, and especially not her when her organization really hates vampires. And I really love it. I've been rereading this series and I love this whole forbidden relationship. I recently actually read the 3rd book, I think. Yeah, I recently read the 3rd book, and that is when their love story really comes ahead. And it's so good. Like I said, if you've read the Vampire Academy, I've never read Bloodlines, I would highly recommend it. I really enjoy my time reading this series. And if you've not read The Vampire Academy, I would highly recommend it. I do think it stands the test of time. Obviously, some things are dated, but I think overall it does stand the test of time. One thing that I'm not a big fan of in Bloodlines is Sydney really getting down on herself for her weight and like the way she eats. That is kind of problematic. But other than that, I really love this series, and it's a very good forbidden romance. So those were all my recommendations for forbidden romance. I love forbidden romances. It's such a good way to create angst. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and if you agree with me, or if I've convinced you to pick one of them up. And I would really love to know your favorite forbidden romances. And if you've gotten to the end of the video, definitely leave, is there a vampire emoji? If there is, definitely leave that in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.